The Galactic Council's Grand Hall fell silent as Admiral Voss of the Centauri Dominion slammed his fist against the podium. The holographic battle maps surrounding him showed the same grim reality, a 50-year war of attrition with no end in sight. The Ardaxian Empire grows stronger with each cycle, Voss growled. Their war factories consume entire moons. We've lost 3 star systems in the past revolution alone. Representative Talia of the Meridian Alliance rose, her crystalline exoskeleton catching the light. Then perhaps it's time we considered unconventional allies. A murmur swept through the assembly. Everyone knew who she meant. Humans, the enigmatic species from the isolated Sol system, once dismissed as primitive savages confined to a single world, they had surprised the galaxy by quietly expanding through their local cluster over centuries without faster-than-light technology. When FTL-capable civilizations finally made contact, humanity had already colonized 12 worlds using generation ships and cryosleep vessels. What truly unsettled the galactic powers, however, was humanity's response to first contact. Instead of the expected awe or aggression, Earth's leaders had simply smiled, welcomed their visitors, and then retreated into a puzzling diplomatic isolation. 300 years later, the human territories remained a mystery. Trade was permitted at designated outposts. Diplomatic relations existed but remained superficial. No alien had ever been invited into the inner Sol system, and automated defense platforms discouraged unauthorized exploration. Madness, hissed Councillor Drax of the Torlin Cooperative. The humans are untested, untrusted. For all we know, they sympathize with the Ardaxians. They have maintained neutrality for 3 centuries, Talia countered. And our intelligence suggests they possess technology we've never seen. Their defensive capabilities alone. Parlor tricks, Drax interrupted. Their defense grid is impressive, yes, but where is their fleet? Where are their armies? They hide behind walls because they're weak. On the edge of Council space, Captain Thomas Reed of the Earth Reconnaissance Vessel Pathfinder received the encrypted transmission from command. He read it twice, then summoned his executive officer. Commander Ellis, set course for Site Omega. Authorization Lazarus Protocol. Ellis's face paled. Sir, are you certain? Reed nodded grimly. The Ardaxians have pushed too far. They've discovered one of our deep research outposts in the Ta-Ceti system. 17,000 civilians. Gone. Ellis swallowed hard. The Council doesn't know, do they? About what we've been building all these years. No, Reed replied, staring at the stars through the view screen. But they're about to find out. Across human space, identical orders flashed through quantum networks. Deep within gas giants, beneath planetary crusts, and hidden in artificial asteroid fields, massive hangar doors began to open for the first time. Humanity's Armada was awakening. Impossible, whispered Admiral Krell of the Ardaxian Empire, studying the sensor readings. Check again. His tactical officer's voice trembled. Confirmed, sir. Over 500 vessels have emerged from the Jupiter shipyards alone. Similar reports coming in from Saturn, Neptune, and the Kuiper Belt. They're everywhere. For 3 centuries, humanity had presented itself as a minor power with modest defensive capabilities. The truth stunned the galaxy. Every gas giant in human territory concealed massive shipyards. Every asteroid belt masked production facilities. Every seemingly peaceful human world harbored military installations beneath its surface. While the great powers fought their wars across the stars, humanity had quietly built the largest fleet the galaxy had ever seen. The human vessels were unlike anything known to galactic engineers. Their hulls absorbed rather than reflected scans. Their propulsion systems left no energy wake. Most disturbing of all, they moved with perfect coordination despite maintaining complete communication silence. On the bridge of the UES Retribution, Fleet Admiral James Walker watched as his command screen filled with green status indicators. 30 years of his life had been dedicated to this moment. to building and hiding humanity's true strength until absolutely necessary. All battle groups report ready, Admiral, his XO reported. Walker nodded. Commence Operation Thunderbolt. The human armada split into 3 massive forces, the largest move to engage the Ardaxian fleet threatening the Meridian homeworld. The second positioned itself to defend key Galactic Council worlds. The third, led by Walker himself, set course directly for the Ardaxian throne world of Karax Prime. On the Centauri flagship, Admiral Voss stared in disbelief as human warships materialized from seemingly empty space to engage the Ardaxian dreadnoughts besieging his forces. They were here all along, he murmured. Watching. Waiting. His communications officer turned from her console. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the human vessels. A human woman in a simple gray uniform appeared on screen. This is Commander Diane Hayes of the United Earth Ship Vindicator. We are moving to assist your forces against the Ardaxian fleet. Please coordinate your fire to complement our attack vectors. Voss found his voice. Where have you been all these years? Why hide your strength? Hayes' expression remained neutral. We've been preparing, Admiral. Humanity learned long ago that revealing your full strength only invites challenge. We chose a different path. As the human vessels engaged the enemy, their technological superiority became apparent. Their weapons bypassed Ardaxian shields as if they weren't there. Their defensive systems absorbed devastating energy beams without damage. In the Galactic Council chamber, the emergency session descended into chaos as reports flooded in from across the warfront. The humans have broken the Ardaxian line at Vega. Their fleet has liberated the Torlan colonies. They've somehow disabled the Ardaxian superdreadnoughts without destroying them. Counselor Drax, who had dismissed human capabilities just days earlier, sat in stunned silence. Talia of the Meridian Alliance approached him quietly. You wondered where their fleet was, she said softly. It seems they've been building it in plain sight all along. The question now is why they've chosen this moment to reveal themselves. The Ardaxian palace trembled as defense sirens wailed across Karax Prime. Emperor Malvos stormed into the war room, his exoskeleton guards flanking him. How did they penetrate our defenses so quickly? He demanded. Grand Strategist Zen gestured to the tactical display. The humans employ some form of localized phase shifting, Your Eminence. Their ships partially exist in subspace, allowing them to bypass our detection grids and defensive arrays. Impossible technology, Malvos kissed. Yet evidently real, Zen replied. We've underestimated them catastrophically. While we fought the Council for decades, they've been developing technologies we never imagined. The Emperor snarled. Deploy the Worldbreaker. Let's see if their phase shifting can protect them from that. On the Retribution, Admiral Walker received the intelligence with grim satisfaction. So they're deploying their superweapon. Good. His executive officer looked alarmed. Sir, the Ardaxians have been developing the Worldbreaker for 30 years, Commander. A weapon capable of shattering planetary crusts. That's why we moved when we did. Walker's eyes narrowed. Our infiltration units confirmed it was nearly operational. The true extent of humanity's preparation was still unfolding. Not only had they built a massive fleet in secret, but they had also infiltrated every major power in the galaxy. Human agents, some genetically modified to pass as other species, had spent decades gathering intelligence and sabotaging key enemy assets. At the edge of the Ardaxian system, the massive Worldbreaker platform began powering up. Its central cannon, drawing energy directly from an artificial singularity, could theoretically destroy any planetary target in the galaxy. As Ardaxian technicians worked frantically to bring the weapon online, none noticed the subtle changes in the platform's coding. For years, the station's maintenance systems had been compromised by human infiltration software. Now those hidden modifications activated. On the bridge of the Retribution, Walker received the encrypted signal. The Worldbreaker has been neutralized. Commence final approach. The human fleet surrounded Karax Prime, their weapons trained on key military installations rather than civilian centers. Walker opened a channel to the Imperial Palace. Emperor Malvos, this is Fleet Admiral James Walker of Earth. Your superweapon has been disabled. Your fleet is in retreat or surrender across the galaxy. I invite you to discuss terms. In the Galactic Council chamber, the representatives watched in stunned silence as live feeds showed human vessels in orbit around the Ardaxian throne world. A conflict that had raged for 5 decades seemed to be ending in less than a week. How? Councillor Drax finally asked. How could they have built such a force without anyone knowing? A human representative entered the chamber for the first time in decades. Ambassador Marcus Lee walked calmly to the center of the room. Because you all saw what you expected to see, he said simply. You saw our scattered worlds and assumed vulnerability. You saw our defensive installations and assumed we had no offensive capabilities. You saw our reluctance to engage in your politics and assumed naivety. He activated a holographic display showing the true extent of human territory, nearly triple what was officially recognized. Humanity learned caution from our own bloody history, Lee continued. We knew that openly displaying our strength would only make us targets or draw us into your conflicts before we were ready. So we chose patience instead. Emperor Malvos sat rigidly across from Admiral Walker in what had once been his private war room. Now it served as the negotiation chamber for the Empire's surrender. You realize the other powers will turn on you eventually, Malvos said quietly. They fear you now more than they ever feared us. Walker nodded. We're counting on it. Fear can be a foundation for respect. And respect for peace. The surrender terms were surprisingly lenient. The Ardaxian Empire would survive, though significantly reduced in size. Their weapons of mass destruction would be dismantled. A human oversight force would remain in their territory for 10 years. As news of the Ardaxian surrender spread across the galaxy, reactions among the council races ranged from celebration to deep unease. The war was over, but a new power had revealed itself, one that had deceived them all for centuries. On the Meridian homeworld, Representative Talia met privately with her world's defense council. The humans could have conquered us all if they wanted to, the defense minister said. Their technological edge is overwhelming. Yet they haven't, Talia noted. They've only targeted the Ardaxians, and even then with remarkable restraint. A strategic move, the minister countered. They're positioning themselves as saviors rather than conquerors. But their deception cannot be overlooked. How do we trust a species that has systematically missiled the galaxy for centuries? Similar conversations occurred across council space as the initial relief of the Ardaxian defeat gave way to uncertainty about humanity's true intentions. In Earth's capital of New Geneva, the Global Security Council convened to discuss the next phase of their emergence. Director Elizabeth Moore addressed her colleagues. Phase 1 of the Lazarus Protocol is complete. Our military capabilities have been demonstrated. The Ardaxian threat is contained. Now we face the more complex challenge, diplomatic integration. President Alan Chen nodded. For centuries, we've kept the galaxy at arm's length while we prepared. Now we must convince them we're not simply the next empire rising. Some will never trust us, General Santos observed. Not after our deception. Chen smiled slightly, which is why we've prepared Phase 2. It's time to reveal why we built our fleet in the first place. Aboard the Retribution, now stationed at the edge of Sol system, Admiral Walker welcomed a delegation of council representatives. The tour of the human flagship was meant as a gesture of transparency, but many delegates remained wary. Your technological achievements are remarkable. Admiral Voss of the Centauri acknowledged as Walker showed them the ship's command center. But surely you understand our concerns. You've hidden your true nature for centuries. Walker nodded. Follow me, please. There's something you need to see. He led them to a secure briefing room, where holographic projectors activated, showing strange astronomical readings. 300 years ago, our deep space telescopes detected something concerning. Walker explained. unusual energy signatures from beyond the galactic rim. At first, we thought they were natural phenomena, but as our technology improved, we realized the truth. The hologram shifted to show what appeared to be massive objects moving slowly toward the galaxy. "We call them the Harbingers," Walker said solemnly. "They're approximately 80 years from reaching our galaxy, and based on what we've observed of their behavior in neighboring galaxies, their arrival precedes extinction-level events." The delegates stared in stunned silence. "This," Walker said quietly, "is why we built our fleet. Not for your war, for what comes next." The council chambers had never been so crowded. Representatives from every spacefaring race packed the tiered seating, all eyes fixed on Ambassador Lee and the human delegation. "We share our findings with your scientific authorities," Lee stated. "They've confirmed our data. The Harbingers are real, and they're approaching." Counselor Drax leaned forward. "If what you say is true, why keep this information secret? Why not warn the galaxy?" "Because you weren't ready to hear it," Lee replied. "When we first detected them, your civilizations were fractured, distrustful. The Meridians and Centauri were engaged in border disputes. The Torlan were experiencing a civil war, and the Ardaxians were beginning their expansionist campaign." He gestured to the holographic display showing the approaching entities. "Imagine if we'd revealed this threat then. Some would have denied it. Others would have panicked. Most dangerously, some would have seen it as an opportunity to seize power while claiming to prepare for the greater threat. So you appointed yourselves the galaxy's secret guardians," Talia observed. "Rather presumptuous." Lee nodded. "Perhaps, but effective. While you fought your wars, we built a fleet capable of defending not just humanity, but all sentient life in the galaxy." The revelation transformed the political landscape overnight. Former enemies found themselves reluctant allies. The recent demonstration of human military power gave credibility to their warnings. If humanity had concealed such military might, what else in their claims might be true? Scientific delegations from across the galaxy traveled to Earth to review the human data on the Harbingers. What they found alarmed them. The entities approaching the galaxy were massive, each the size of a small moon, and they moved with clear purpose and coordination. More disturbing were the long-range observations of other galaxies where these entities had appeared. In each case, unusual energy patterns had been detected, followed by a dramatic decrease in detectable civilizational markers. Entire galaxies going dark within decades. On the fringes of human space, the research vessel Horizon made a breakthrough. Dr. Olivia Parker and her team had been studying fragments of alien technology recovered from deep space, technology believed to be remnants of previous Harbinger encounters. "Admiral Walker, we've managed to partially decode the data storage devices," Parker reported via quantum link. "They contain what appears to be a warning, and a weapon design." Walker leaned forward. "From whom?" "We're calling them the predecessors," Parker replied. "Based on the decay rate of the materials, they existed approximately 2 million years ago. They encountered the Harbingers and developed countermeasures. They failed to save themselves, but they left this information for others." "How did they know others would follow?" Parker's expression was grim. "That's the most troubling part, sir. According to their records, this isn't the first cycle. The Harbingers have done this before. Many times, they harvest advanced galaxies, then retreat to intergalactic space for millennia before returning." Walker absorbed this. "And the weapon? It's beyond anything we've developed," Parker admitted. "But with the combined scientific knowledge of all council races, it might be possible." In the following weeks, humanity revealed their final secret: massive construction facilities hidden in pocket dimensions adjacent to normal space, where they had been experimenting with technology reverse-engineered from predecessor artifacts. As representatives from across the galaxy toured these facilities, understanding dawned. Humanity hadn't been merely building a fleet, they had been preparing the groundwork for something far larger. "We've laid the foundation," President Chen told the assembled galactic leaders. "But we cannot complete this work alone. The Harbingers are coming for all of us, and only together do we stand a chance of survival. The Unified Defense Initiative became the largest cooperative project in galactic history. The former Ardaxian shipyards, once used to build engines of conquest, now produced components for the predecessor weapon system. Centauri scientists, renowned for their expertise in quantum mechanics, worked alongside human engineers to solve the theoretical challenges. Meridian crystalline technology provided the focusing mechanisms that human metallurgy couldn't achieve. 5 years after the revelation of the Harbinger threat, the first joint human-alien military exercises began. The integration was challenging. Centuries of isolation had left humans with protocols and tactics unfamiliar to Council forces. But the urgency of their mission drove rapid adaptation. Admiral Walker, now Supreme Commander of the Unified Defense Fleet, stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, a massive structure built at the galactic rim as an early warning system. "They're accelerating," he noted, reviewing the latest tracking data with Admiral Voss. The Centauri nodded grimly. "Our new estimates suggest 50 years until contact, not 80. The weapon progress is encouraging. The power generation issues are nearly solved, but the targeting system remains problematic. The predecessors designed it to track entities that exist partially outside normal spacetime." Walker's expression remained stoic, but his eyes betrayed concern. "We're running out of time." On Earth, changes were evident everywhere. Formerly closed human cities now hosted alien embassies and research centers. The secrecy that had defined humanity for centuries had given way to an open exchange of knowledge and culture. Not everyone embraced these changes. A small but vocal movement called Earth First had emerged, protesting the alien infiltration and questioning whether the Harbinger threat was real or merely a pretext for galactic integration. Captain Reed, whose reconnaissance vessel had been among the first to reveal humanity's fleet years earlier, now commanded a joint human Torlan task force patrolling the galactic rim. His ship, the Sentinel, carried an experimental long-range detection array. "Contact," his sensor officer suddenly called out, detecting anomalous energy signatures at extreme range. Reed's blood ran cold. "Classification: consistent with Harbinger profiles, sir, but smaller. Scout units, possibly." Reed ordered immediate notification to Unity Command. Within hours, a joint response fleet assembled and moved to intercept. The encounter was brief but revealing. The Harbinger scouts, 3 objects each roughly the size of a destroyer, did not respond to communication attempts. When the fleet moved to intercept, the entities accelerated to impossible speeds, then simply vanished. At the emergency council session that followed, Dr. Parker presented her analysis. "They were conducting reconnaissance, cataloging our defensive capabilities. Most concerning is the technology they demonstrated. Their propulsion and cloaking abilities exceed our most advanced systems. Can the weapon be effective against such technology?" Talia asked. Parker hesitated. "Theoretically, yes. The predecessor design targets the Harbinger's unique quantum signature, but we need more data on their technological evolution since the predecessor era." Council leader Drax, once humanity's harshest critic, now their unlikely ally, stood. "Then we must obtain that data. I propose a deep reconnaissance mission beyond the galactic rim, directly toward the main Harbinger force. The mission would be dangerous, possibly suicidal, but the knowledge gained could be the difference between survival and extinction." "I'll lead it," Walker volunteered. President Chen objected. "We need you coordinating the defense fleet, James." "With respect, Madam President, this requires first-hand assessment by someone who understands exactly what we're looking for." Walker's determination was evident. "Besides, the Retribution has our most advanced stealth systems." As preparations for the mission commenced, Walker requested one addition to his crew: Dr. Parker. Her knowledge of predecessor technology would be invaluable for interpreting what they found. The night before departure, Walker stood alone on the observation deck of the Retribution, staring at the distant stars. Parker found him there. having second thoughts. "Admiral." "No," he replied, "just reflecting. 300 years of preparation, Dr. Parker. 3 centuries of hiding, building, waiting. And now we're about to discover if it was enough." She moved to stand beside him. "Humanity made the right choice. Without your preparation, the galaxy would be facing this threat divided, weakened." Walker nodded slowly. "Perhaps, but I can't help wondering. What if the Ardaxians had been right? What if showing strength earlier would have united the galaxy sooner? Or it might have led to even more devastating wars," Parker countered. "History is full of arms races that ended in destruction." The Admiral turned to her. "Well, Doctor, we're about to make history of our own, one way or another." The Retribution and its escort of 4 stealth frigates ventured beyond the galactic rim, their advanced propulsion systems allowing them to cover vast distances in relative silence. 2 weeks into the mission, they detected the first definitive signs of the Harbinger Armada. "My God," whispered Dr. Parker, staring at the sensor readings. "There are hundreds of them." The main Harbinger force was arrayed in a precise formation covering an area larger than an entire star system. At the center were 5 entities dwarfing the others, each nearly the size of a small planet. Walker ordered the fleet to maintain maximum stealth protocols as they maneuvered for closer observation. For 3 days, they gathered data, capturing detailed scans of the Harbinger vessels and the strange energy fields surrounding them. On the 4th day, everything went wrong. "Energy surge," the tactical officer shouted. "They've detected us." "Evasive maneuvers," Walker ordered calmly. "Prepare for emergency jump." Before they could act, a blinding pulse of energy erupted from the nearest Harbinger vessel. When it reached the human ships, their systems fluctuated wildly. Jump drives failed. Communications went dark. "They're using some kind of targeted EMP," Parker realized. "But how do they detect us through our stealth field?" "They've encountered stealth technology before," Walker surmised. "Perhaps from the predecessors themselves." As the human vessels drifted, partially disabled, 3 smaller Harbinger craft detached from the main fleet and moved to intercept. Walker made a decision. "All power to engines. We make a run for the galactic boundary. The escort ships will deploy countermeasures to cover our retreat." "That's a suicide mission for the escorts," his XO protested. "They know their duty," Walker replied grimly. "The data we've collected must reach the Council." The desperate flight that followed would later be known as the Rim Run. 2 escort vessels were lost immediately, consumed by energy weapons unlike anything previously encountered. The 3rd sacrificed itself in a kamikaze attack that temporarily disabled one of the pursuers. The 4th escort and the Retribution managed to reach the boundary of Council space, but the remaining Harbinger vessel was closing rapidly. "Admiral," Parker called out, "I've completed analysis of their energy signatures. The predecessor weapon design can be modified to target this specific frequency." Walker nodded. "Transmit the data to Unity Command. Encrypt with my personal codes." As the transmission completed, the last escort vessel moved to intercept the approaching Harbinger, buying the Retribution precious minutes to escape. It wasn't enough. The Harbinger weapon caught the edge of the Retribution, crippling its propulsion. As system after system failed, Walker ordered the crew to evacuation pods. "Dr. Parker, you must go," he insisted, remaining at the command console. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "Someone needs to ensure this ship doesn't fall into their hands intact," he replied. "The self-destruct systems are damaged. I'll have to trigger the core breach manually." Parker hesitated, then handed him a small data crystal. "The complete predecessor archives. There's more there than what we transmitted. Theories about the Harbinger's origins, their purpose. It might help." Walker accepted it solemnly. "Now go." As the evacuation pods launched, Walker directed the dying ship on a collision course with the pursuing Harbinger. In the final moments, he activated the emergency beacon containing all their findings, launching it at maximum velocity toward Council space. The Retribution erupted in a blinding explosion as its power core detonated, engulfing both it and the Harbinger vessel in a sphere of energy that momentarily outshone the nearest stars. 3 weeks later, the Council received both the emergency beacon and the surviving evacuation pods. The data they contained transformed the defense initiative. The predecessor weapon designs were updated based on Walker's findings, and production accelerated across all Allied worlds. 6 months later, long-range sensors detected the Harbinger Armada changing course, now heading directly for the galaxy at increased speed. Their encounters with humanity's reconnaissance force had apparently convinced them to accelerate their timetable. The first battles occurred at the Galactic Rim. Despite being outnumbered, the unified fleet fought with unprecedented coordination. Human stealth technology, Centauri quantum weapons, Torlan defense systems, and even repurposed Ardaxian dreadnoughts formed a defensive line unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. On Unity Station, now serving as the command center for the defense, Dr. Parker supervised the final assembly of the predecessor weapon. Based on Walker's final data transmission, they had modified it to target the specific quantum signature of the Harbinger flagships. "We get one shot at this," she told President Chen and the Council leaders. "The weapon will burn out after firing. We need to draw all 5 Harbinger command ships into range simultaneously." The plan was audacious. The unified fleet would appear to break, creating a gap in their lines leading directly to the weapon's position. If the Harbingers took the bait, they would move their command ships into perfect alignment for a single devastating strike. As the battle raged across the galactic rim, the trap was set. For 3 days, the Allied forces fought a strategic retreat, sacrificing ships and territory to make their weakness appear genuine. On the 4th day, the Harbinger command ships moved into the gap, advancing in perfect formation toward what they perceived as the collapsing defense of the galaxy. "They're in position," Parker announced, her finger hovering over the activation control. Around her, representatives from every major race stood in tense silence. She thought of Walker, of his 3-century vigil, of the fleet he had built in secret, and of his final sacrifice. "For humanity," she whispered. "For all of us." The predecessor weapon fired, releasing a cascading wave of energy that expanded outward, passing harmlessly through normal matter, but specifically targeting the unique quantum signature of the Harbinger vessels. One by one, the massive command ships began to collapse, their exotic matter converting to normal energy in a spectacular chain reaction. Without their leadership, the smaller Harbinger vessels fell into disarray, many simply shutting down. The unified fleet pressed its advantage, methodically eliminating the remaining threat. 3 days later, Admiral Voss reported the final Harbinger vessel destroyed. In the council chambers, a new memorial was unveiled, a simple holographic projection of a human fleet insignia alongside the symbols of all Allied races. Beneath it, an inscription: "To Admiral James Walker and the crew of the Retribution. They watched in silence for centuries, so we could speak as one when it mattered most." President Chen addressed the assembled representatives. For 300 years, humanity concealed its strength, not out of fear or mistrust, but out of the understanding that true power lies in knowing when to reveal it. We built our fleet in secret, waiting for the moment when the galaxy needed not conquerors, but defenders. She gestured to the stars visible through the council chamber's transparent dome. "The Harbingers are defeated, but they are not the only threat among those stars. There will be others. And when they come, they will find not divided civilizations, but a united galaxy." As the council session concluded, Dr. Parker stood alone at the observation window, staring at the distant stars where the final battle had occurred. In her hand, she held Walker's personal log, recovered from his evacuation pod, his final thoughts before his sacrifice. "We prepared for centuries," he had written, "hiding our strength, biding our time. Not because we feared the galaxy, but because we feared for it. Today, humanity's hidden armada finally serves its true purpose, not to rule, not to conquer, but to preserve. And in that preservation, Perhaps we have finally found our place among the stars.